All right. Hello. Hello, everybody. No, there's the recording. Hello, everybody. I was starting a little prematurely there. Welcome to Conscious Conversations in Parenting. I'm Angie. This is Natalie. Thank you for being here. We're here on episode 26, and today I'm really excited about the topic we're going to discuss. We're talking about ascension, but within the family unit. Now, you might not even be familiar with the word ascension, and that's okay, because we're going to talk about it, because really what it is conscious living. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I don't know, we'll just like any conversation, we'll see where it goes, right? And we hope you'll follow us there. So if we haven't met, I'm Angie. I'm the creatrix of Journey to Soul. And who am I? I'm just a human, guys. I'm literally a human who's living in a family unit. I'm a mom. I have two kids. I have a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I just try to take the experiences that I've had in life, of awakening, of ascension, of conscious living. And then I try to share that with other people because I've received the benefits of it. And so of course my heart wants you to receive the benefits of it as well. And it doesn't mean that you walk my path. It doesn't mean that I'm right, you're wrong. There's none of that. It doesn't mean that. What it means is I have a piece of a puzzle that maybe you're missing, and you have a piece of a puzzle that I'm probably missing. And so when we have these conscious conversations, Julie is one of our other partners, and when we have these conscious conversations with each other, we unlock more knowing, deeper understanding, bigger picture thinking, another piece of the puzzle. And I think it's so important for our growth. And as parents, parenting is tough, right? I think we can all fucking put that out there and admit it. Parenting is tough. It's hard. And so I think having these conscious conversations really helps us to move more into our empowerment and into our choice, that we can choose how we want this experience to be, this parenting experience, because ultimately we chose to be here in it, and we're living it, right? And so I just think there's a big benefit to having these conversations. And so I hope you feel the same way. I hope you gain something from these conversations. I believe you will if you're here. And yeah, that's it for me. Natalie, I'll let you introduce yourself quickly. And yeah.
Thanks, Angie. That was a really fun intro, by the way. I love everything you said.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm very similar to Angie. I'm experiencing this wild human ride in a family unit. And some days I'm just like, why did I not pick giraffe? But other days, most days, I'm just like, this is really fun. So I've, again, going through this conscious awakening, and I'm really here to help just normalize it more, right? Talk about it more, have more of these conversations of, um, doing things differently, not getting sucked into all these beliefs and programming that we just are born into, right? And that keep getting programmed into us by society. So talking, yeah, conversations with, to talk about it and to listen to others as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, yeah, so episode 26. So I wanted to bring this topic to the table because ascension is something that's sort of underlying all of our, the spiritual path. We hear a lot in the spiritual community about ascension, and we have ascension teachers that teach us what ascension is. And I think, for one, I think it's confusing to people. It took me a long time to really understand what that even meant. It piqued my curiosity, but it took me a long time to understand what it meant. And at this point, I feel like ascension is really conscious living. It is choosing to live consciously, but in order to live consciously, we need to become aware of a lot of things. And so this is why I think conscious conversations are really great, because when we have these conscious conversations, awarenesses open up. And that moves us naturally on the path of ascension, which is moving into higher states of consciousness. That's all it is. It's moving into a higher state of consciousness, into greater awareness and greater, more empowered living, I think. That's my definition of it. And then Natalie and I were talking about it's even more complicated. It feels more complicated anyway in the experience of it within a family unit. Because I don't know about you moms, but you often tend to feel like you're responsible for the other members of your family, for their ascension, for their growth, for their consciousness, and that's just not fucking true. So we're here to bust the myth on that.
Yeah.
And I say it's not fucking true, and I laugh, but I also behave in that way. It is programmed. It is deeply programmed. I behave in the way that I'm responsible for that path for others, and we talk about this a lot, staying in your own lane and not messing with other people's dynamics and relationship dynamics. So I would love to hear, Natalie, what your definition of ascension is and how you see it within the family unit.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I apologize for the Blair Witch movements earlier. Just my cat's laying on me, and she was very interested in the cord. So, um, so conscious awakening, to me, there's like two different parts to it. There's the awareness part of it. So again, awareness means, can you step back enough from your thoughts? Can you recognize that you are experiencing a thought, or can you recognize that you're experiencing an emotion or judgment or whatever it is? So that's kind of the first part. And then the second part is the mindset of it, right? Like how are you thinking? Not really what are you thinking, but how are you thinking? What's your point of view? Um, and it's really important to keep these two things in mind. These are like your most important tools in your life, even if you have no idea what ascension means, or even if you think that's not your thing. No matter what your beliefs are, those two things you really got to keep handy all the time, right? Like kind of you're double fisted, right? You're always trying to either apply one or the other or both. And then this kind of triggers a natural process within our human bodies, within our souls, of again this ascension. And ascension really is becoming our truest potential within this human body, is what
I think
I
also I'm going to
that's
add
my definition of
recognizing.
it.
That's beautiful. I absolutely agree, and I love how you broke it down into these two really important components. And I think I'm going to add to my definition that we are spiritual beings. It's an acknowledgement that we are not just this physical being. We are not just the thinking mind. We are a
Mm,
spiritual being. And
yeah.
that to
And
me
that's
is
part of
what
the
ascension.
mindset,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes they
Yeah.
mix, right? The awareness and the mindset, it's okay if they mix. Um, yeah, sorry for interrupting.
No, no, go ahead.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, okay, well, let's start off. I mean, most viewers here will either be living in a family unit or have children or some sort of family unit that they're living in. And I was listening to the family has like a very interesting, like the family that you've chosen, whether or not you are consciously aware of it or not. You know, like the family that I chose, you know, I have my husband and I have two kids and two cats. It's really kind of our household right now. And I chose this, right? Like I chose this in a human form by saying yes to my husband's proposal and deciding to have kids. But I also said yes on kind of like an ethereal level, right? Before I dropped into this human body. Maybe even before I decided to, you know, join this human party down on earth. Like we choose these experiences, and we also choose the souls that we get to experience this with, right? Um, and I was listening to uh, a Reality Revolution episode yesterday. It was one of his quo readings. Brian was reading quo, and in it he said something really interesting that's actually really pertinent to this conversation. Quo, they were saying about more about like a marriage or your common law relationship, that you know one partner is going through a conscious awakening, right? One partner is waking up. The other one's not necessarily even waking up, not even interested, maybe. that other person, that other partner, your husband or your wife, but they still have an integral piece though. They're still such an important part because they are mirroring what you need to, quote unquote, work on for your awakening. And I use the term work on very lightly, okay, guys, because it's not, you don't have to like effort to do this. You don't have to work hard. You don't have to sweat. You don't have to grunt to for this awakening. But your family members are going to show you
Mm.
what, like how you need to maybe physically respond, but most often how to change your mindset. And I have a great story I can share later that actually just happened a couple of days ago. Um, but I think that's like a point of view. That's like a mindset thing. That's a great mindset example of part of awakening is changing your whole point of view instead of being like, um, like, oh my God, like I'm waking up, but I'm on this spiritual journey, and then you're kind of looking down on others in your household and you're judging them like, how can they not be aware of like this behavior that they're displaying, or how, why are they still repeating the same sentence, the same script, like they're stuck in their same story. Can't they see that this is all like a giant video game, like this external judgment? That's the mindset that you have to change. Or maybe you don't have to change, but this is an example, right? Of instead of looking down on others, because this is more like a spiritual ego thing, right? Like we look
Yes.
down on others. Instead of doing that, take that opportunity, even just that awareness of, you're being snotty. Hey man, we all have, this is kind of part of being in these human bodies. Sometimes we're just naughty bitches, right? Like, let's
Yeah.
just be honest here. But then we have this opportunity to look at things totally differently. And that's really what triggers us ascending into um, being who we're truly meant to be, right? Whether that's serving others, whether that's um, a specific role maybe that we have in mind, serving the world, serving whatever it is. And maybe it's just being a better parent, right? Maybe
Yeah.
it's just being more patient. But so again, going back to my example of, being snotty or looking down on others, change a point of view of like, oh, this is literally me, like higher self me telling, this is higher self me telling, Natalie me, little me, through my husband, through my kids, maybe even through my
Yes.
cats. Hey, this is like the lesson right now. This is not that there's, like this is the lesson of the month, if you want to think of it that way, right? This is the opportunity of the month.
Mm.
Are you going to take this opportunity? Are you going to change your thought, change your feeling about this?
Yeah, do
Or are
something
you still
different.
gonna go down, or are you still gonna go down the rabbit hole of being snotty and snobby and looking down your nose at people?
And then getting the feedback of that, you'll keep getting that feedback loop,
Yeah,
right? Until you choose differently. And it's not wrong. It's not wrong if you don't take the invitation, you don't jump on that opportunity, but that opportunity will continue to present itself. I love what you said, Natalie. I wrote it down. Like, I really love that's how spirit works. That's how our higher self works through the people that we've chose to be here with, right? Through those people. And we have contracts from like a one interaction contract to like multiple contracts, like multiple interactions, which would be our closest family units, right? And so if we can start to move into that way of thinking that everything is working for us, life, this is what we mean when we say life is working for us. Our higher self wants what's best for us. And there are certain things we need to heal within ourselves, certain patterns that need to be released. But in order for them to be released, we have to naturally, with our free will, move into awareness. And how can we move into awareness if nobody's mirroring it for us? How can we move into awareness if nobody is giving us the opportunity? And that's how spirit works. Like the higher self says, oh, okay, I'm going to give Angie the opportunity through Kyle. And so Kyle will be inspired to behave a certain way. And it might be a way I don't like, or maybe it's a way I love, but there's always an invitation in that thing. And so there was something else you said. What did I write? We carry that ego over. I love that you said a spiritual ego because that's what I wrote. I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I even think about it like if we look at often what's associated with ascension is 3D to 5D, right? This idea, this concept, right, of moving from a
Mhm.
3D way of consciousness to a 5D consciousness, right? And in a 5D consciousness, we have bigger picture thinking. There's different characteristics in that consciousness, this dimensional level, right? But what does that mean? Nobody knows, right? But here's the thing, like we're always evolving, always evolving. So even when we were living in 3D, we were still evolving and certain awarenesses pop up. And that is a pattern in 3D. This pattern of snottiness, this pattern of I'm better than you now because I'm more aware, right? And so part of moving into our ascension of who we truly are doesn't actually think this way, doesn't believe this way, right? That we're better than other people because who we truly are understands that we're all one. We're all one expression of source. We're all one expression of this energy, right? This higher consciousness energy. And so it's like part of our ascension journey and our mastery training, if you will, like mastering our emotions, mastering, these lower dimensional energies, right? Why we came here. We came here to master these things and to bring love through. So part of that journey is recognizing the pattern of the ego, and the ego did it in 3D. When we grew in 3D, we were still like, we're better than, oh, I know this. And how are you still thinking that, But I was once there too. I was once thinking that too. We're all at different levels. And so we carry that forward with spiritual ego. So as we awaken, I think it's really important for us to move into an awareness that we're carrying this pattern forward with us. But that's what's keeping us going forward because it's
Yeah.
a pattern of lower dimension, it's a pattern of lower frequency, and it's just a pattern, it's not who you are. It doesn't mean anything if you realize it, right?
Yeah. And that's really important to repeat. It is a pattern. We are experiencing a pattern. You are not the pattern. Just
Yes.
like we say, you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotion. You are the being that is experiencing it.
Yes.
I'm not even this human
The being.
body. No, I'm just, and my mentor explains this a great way. Um, so what happens when we drop into these human bodies? Think of as your soul putting like when your soul is going into the human body, it's like your hand going into a glove. And then when you move on from this life, when you quote unquote die, no death, guys, but anyways, um, when someone dies, when they pass away, that's just whoop, taking your hand out of the glove. Like you are the hand, right? You're
Mhm.
even way beyond the hand. But anyway, let's keep it somewhat simple. But and that's such a huge part of, I guess it's kind of like a big cataclysm of awakening is not just having conversations of, oh yeah, like I'm the awareness that's behind, you know, me talking right now, feeling it, like really experiencing it in your body,
Feeling
in
it
your
in the
soul,
body.
in your mind, because it's like it's all like when you start like kind of that first experience that you really have of true awareness.
Yeah.
It's all over your body. It's not just centered in your heart or your mind. It's
Everywhere.
everywhere, and it's that experience that and these types of experiences that really rev up, so to speak, our awakening.
Yeah.
Right? That is awakening, is experiencing the awareness, recognizing ourselves as that awareness in all sorts of different levels, so to speak, right? Like Angie was saying, the more like the behaviors that we typically see in
Mhm.
3D versus 4D versus 5D. These are all just very similar lessons, just showing up differently. We feel them differently, but it's still that the end goal is always whatever you're going through, whatever you're living in that moment. Can you remember to be aware of it, right? Can you remember that you are the
Yes.
awareness? right?
And can you recognize that no matter what in a life here on earth, like ascension to me as well is you come into this earth and you're going to leave with greater awareness of yourself than when you came in. That's ascension. So it's not anything fancy, guys. We're all on ascension
Yeah.
because anybody that comes into this world, this experience, right, leaves it, no matter when you leave it, leaves it with greater awareness of self,
Mhm.
right? And so that's why it's conscious living, because we talk about this all the time. When we have awareness, right, we can move into an acceptance of the experience, right? And then we can have conscious choice. In that moment, we have conscious choice. Is this how I want to experience this?
Yeah.
Because there's unlimited possibility. And this is why it's
Mhm.
so important too that we chose this. Like there's unlimited possibility of how we can choose to experience this. Look at all we have to do is look around the whole world. Everyone's living a different
Yeah.
experience,
Mhm.
every single person. And conscious living is choosing the experience you want to have, not letting the outside energies dictate.
Yeah.
And that includes in your family unit
Yeah.
too. Not
Yeah. You
allowing,
choose how you want to feel,
yes.
right?
And it can feel
Yeah.
overwhelming when you think about that in the whole world perspective, and I believe that's why we have family units. That's why we have little
Yeah.
communities, we have little groups, right? To help us, because the micro, macro, right? Like as
Yeah.
within, so without. So, if that feels scary to look at yourself in a whole entire world of billions of people, then how about we maintain it into the family unit? Just like whatever's going on within us is what becomes our experience outside of us. Well, within the family unit, right? Those other energies within your family unit, instead of looking at it as a threat, which to the ego will see it as a threat, can we see it as an opportunity to really change the bigger picture, the bigger experience
Yeah.
by just seeing and becoming aware of the invitations and the opportunities that they show us. Right now I'm going through this. It's been tough in our house the past few days. It's lightening up, but there were some really tough moments, and I go back to a practice that I was taught by one of my mentors, which really shifted my relationship, and it's because it really made me go inward, and it really made me look at what is actually bothering me is not the person outside of me. It seems like that my mind will say, "Well, no, it's him. It's him and what he's doing and what he's choosing to do or what he's not doing or, whatever it is." And it invited me to go in, and I'm in that space again where I've had to go in because I was starting to project so much on my husband, right? And getting angry at my husband. And it was like, okay, and it was like, what are the things I'm telling myself he needs to do? He needs to participate more in this family. He needs to participate more in life. And this is where it takes courage, right? Because we have to take that and say, okay, where am I not participating in my family? Where am I not participating in life? And that's where I address it. I don't address it as what he needs to do. I address it at where am I not doing that? And how can I do that? Because when you shift that energy by taking that action within yourself, I'll tell you that'll disappear. That problem, like, your higher self will stop communicating through your husband in that way.
Mhm.
That makes sense? I don't know if that made sense, but I'm just sort of
Yeah,
walking
because
myself through.
you received the
Yes.
message the way it was meant to be received.
Yes, that's how
And
it's
then
meant to be
let's
received.
go in what's Kyle showing me, right? Like
Yes.
the
What's my
words coming
higher
out of his
self
mouth
showing
aren't
me?
really necessary, but what am I trying to tell myself through Kyle,
Yes.
right? And then when you
Yes.
take that and then you notice that and then you decide, okay, like what's the next action I can take up
Yes.
for myself?
And
And then that shifts everything.
in every now moment,
Yeah.
like I have to ask myself, we talk about this all the time too, right? Choosing love again and again and again and again. I have to choose in every now moment I can, how can I show up in life more? How can I participate in my family more in this moment? How can I participate in my
Mhm.
family more in this moment? Right? It's not
Yeah.
like I show up once, the problem won't go away, the problem. It won't go away. It'll keep inviting me in because it wants me to shift a pattern.
Yeah.
So in order to
Yeah.
shift a pattern, you have to do it again and again and again and again.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be super complicated either. I feel like I need to say
Yeah.
this. It can be very simple. Because often with the human mind, it's either go big or go home, right? We
Yes.
have to go to the very end, like let's say participating in your family. Then all of a sudden your mind's probably going to jump to, okay, we need to do a weekend outing. Every
Yes.
weekend we're going
Every
to go
weekend.
hiking. Every weekend,
And if we don't do it, then
and
we
right
fail.
now, and let's go. Yeah, and then it's like, go instead. Like it can be something so small, guys. Of just choose to have, maybe just spend 5 minutes, but 5 intentional minutes with each person in your family. And that may look differently. Maybe that's just,
Mm,
sitting on the couch. Maybe one of them sitting on the couch. You just sit on the same couch with them. And I don't know, you don't even have to do anything, right? Just be present with them if that's
yeah,
what feels right. Maybe it's playing a card game with someone else. Maybe it's, walking to the mailbox with the third one, whatever it is. But these are the little changes, right? We got to scrub out the go big or go home. And this
that's a
is a
pattern.
pattern that I'm experiencing. Yeah, with one of the examples that I want to share. That was like I was trying to find a solution, right? And I'm like, oh, it's got to be this huge thing. And then I'm like, whoa, this is an old thought pattern, right? This is an old belief system that I see now, and I don't have to go all gung ho
Follow
about
it.
this. Yeah, let's do something different, like in something different. Usually the thing that you have to do differently feels really uncomfortable. Like for me, it was okay, let's have a conversation with my husband about, what's the next simple step here that feels right for us and something that we can apply on a consistent basis. Again, it's something so small, like, I mean, it was a screen time thing. So in this example, it was, after watching TV for a couple of hours, we're gonna go put the remote away for an hour, right? And we're gonna do something else. So that was kind of, instead of let's unplug all the devices and hide all the cords and all this stuff, right? Um, yeah. So and so yeah, like keep it like when you find that there's something that you want to solve, catch yourself in those patterns of like problem solving, right? Like where do you jump to? Like again, like we got to go hiking every weekend, or we have to, you know, we got to do board games every Thursday night. Like it has to be, Thursday's board game night. Like, whoa, slow down here. First of all, the people
I
who even
find
like board
myself
games in your family, maybe that's not your thing, right? And I feel I should probably go into this example that I had that I experienced with on Friday with my son. Um, so I had taken Friday afternoon off work to meet um, one of my friends with our kids at a trampoline park, and um, and then kind of leading up to that, like kind of I guess this whole past week, there was like a frustration feeling kind of tied into many different things, including my at my work and everything. And so I was supposed to finish work at 1 on Friday, and I actually wound up just putting myself as I work from home, so I just put myself as busy online at noon because I'm like, because people were emailing me, and then it was just like, and I recognized what was happening. I'm like, all right, this human body is feeling the feeling of frustration up the wazoo, and the more frustration I was experiencing, then the more frustrating things were coming. Because like that's kind of that's how the universe works, right? Like that's the law of attraction. Um, so then, anyways, I just logged off and I'm like, fuck it. Like I am done. I am done with these humans. So then I went to speak with my son who was watching TV, and I'm like, okay, like let's go get ready, like take a shower, we can meet. go meet our friend. And then he's like, no, I don't want to go, you know. And then my mind immediately blamed, oh, the screen, right? He's watching TV and he didn't want to, turn off the TV. He'd rather spend time with television and like all this stuff. My mind was like, ooh. And again, the feeling of frustration was like cranked up to like fucking max, man. I started there were tears. I vented. I even like started like kind of begging, like, can't we just like when you're just sort of like bargaining? And I'm like, why am I doing this with anyone, let alone like an 8-year-old, right? So it kind of like, and I knew I was doing like I was aware of those old patterns that I was displaying again. And again, I was aware that the feeling of frustration was like stuck in me. Like I was just like stuck in like the cement block of frustration. Um, so it took a while. It took different like I was trying different things, right? Like all these different tools that we teach on. I was applying, and then finally it came to a point of vulnerability, right? Like I just became very vulnerable with my son. I was very honest, and then he reciprocated. He's like, because again, this was kind of the topic was more around screen time and like the excessive amount of screen time that some people choose to experience in this house. And he said that it did, and essentially it was his response to his loneliness, right? Which I'm like,
Mm.
oh, like, and he was very honest about it. And then again, the mind hearing this was like, oh, you're a bad mom, like you didn't see this before. So then there was like the guilt trying to sneak in, and I'm like, oh my
Wow.
frig, ego, like you just shut up for a
What
second.
a trip, eh?
Yeah, and then it was still like again, I was applying more like mindset tools at this point. And I was also cleaning at the same time because I'm like, I need something physical to just like burn off like this excess of energy. Um, so I mean, the living room got really clean during this whole experience too. And then so then my son decided he needed like kind of a change of scenery, so he went upstairs. And then I was sitting there like picking up Legos and crying, and I'm like, I know I'm feeling frustrated right now. I just don't like, I know I can choose something else. I'm like, I don't know how to choose something to get me out of like funk, right? So then I just tapped into my guides and my heart and my inner counsel, and I'm like, I need lots of hugs. And then I just felt so much like I felt so much lighter because I felt like I knew
Mm.
my guides were there, and everything like just that light and that love just really came through. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So then I felt quite a bit like the calm helped as well. Um, but then the ego was still like still need to find a solution to this, right? Like
Right, I still need to fix
I
it.
still need to control this.
I
You know what I
need to
did? I
control it.
wound up. I took. Oh, this is gonna freaking trip you out, man. So what I actually did, so the solution, which in the moment I thought was like divine intervention, and perhaps it was, because I guess everything's divine intervention, but I wound up unplugging the cord from the television, uh, and then from the wall, like that whole cord that attaches the television to like the outlet. I just actually took that out and I put it away. I actually put it in the garage, like in the box, like way out of the way. And I'm like, okay, there you go. Like that's at least one screen that I controlled, right? Um, and then we like the rest of the afternoon was fine. We met our friends at the trampoline place and we had a nice time. We went out for dinner, just two of us, and then got home, whatever, did our thing. I went to bed. The next morning I woke up. My son's like, oh, he's like, you shouldn't hide the cord in he's like, I found the cord. He's like, you shouldn't have hid it in the crawl space, like the storage that we have in our basement. I was thinking, the fuck, I didn't put it in, right? Like I put the extension cord there, but I didn't put the other cord there. So yeah, so he had found another, I guess,
A
like
different
another
cord.
plug that fit that exact motherfucking TV. Like, and then so he was telling me this, and I was outside,
You're like,
and I was just like, what? And then I saw after that the television was indeed plugged in and everything, and I'm like, okay, so clearly that was not the best solution, like that was a solution to the problem, but it
But it
wasn't like
wasn't the best.
another solution. It was still me going through that same doorway, right? Of like, I need to fix this and control this right away. So I'm like, how can you do that? So I was actually like really like I
Like,
got super
whoa,
furious.
like you
Like,
deserve to get the
how
TV
did
now.
another port of a brand new television that we like my husband just bought like a couple months ago? I was just like, how did that wind up in the cross? I was just like,
And how
right?
did he know to find it like right there? Like it,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm like, clearly this is my higher self saying, hey, like
Okay,
you went through
Natalie.
one doorway of a solution. Now, like let's go deeper. Let's
Let's go
use that
back to this
uncomfortable things to
scenario.
discover another doorway, another possible solution, another choice, right? Another conscious choice, because it was
Wow.
a conscious choice as I was doing it, right?
Yep.
But it was the same conscious choice that even though it's a conscious
It's
choice, it doesn't mean that you're
masked.
not repeating the same patterns, right? You're just conscious of it. And that's
It
what my
comes in
God,
all
my higher
forms.
self was that fucking court. I'm like, really, God? I was like, but it was funny because
Wow.
the reaction, and I think this is a big part of awakening too, of being in the experience of awakening, is you have just a better sense of humor because you
Yeah.
know it's not everybody's out to get you. It is literally you.
Yes.
Like
Inviting you.
you created your own video game, let's just say that, and you dropped a teeny tiny part of yourself in this body that you're inhabiting, right? um and yeah, so I find that's helped me. That's been one of like my greatest, I guess, development in awakening, is having that broader awareness, a
I
bigger
agree.
picture point of view, and it makes everything like funny, right? Instead of being pissed off, we're like going off in a panic and like redoing the same thing over and over again and freaking out. I just start laughing and I'm like, okay, well,
I think that's the best state to be in, laughing, being able to laugh at yourself, at like,
yes,
oh my God, I'm funny. Like, like,
right,
like I'm ridiculous. I
yeah.
thank
Thanks
you
for that
so
sentiment.
much.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, because often, I mean, and I'll even say this, like, oh, like thanks for that message, life or universe or
Yep.
source or whatever. But I mean, universe, source is
Is
you.
you
Just you're just like a teeny tiny little like
fraction of it.
dust of dust particle of like this huge you, but it's you, right? Um, yeah. So like, yeah. So that's, yeah. The sense of humor helps a lot. But
Yeah,
I
thank
thought like
you.
that whole example, I was just like,
Like you're literally mirroring. This happened on Friday, you said? You're literally
yeah,
mirroring an experience that happened with me, and it involved electronics too, being the reason my mind wanted to say that's why she gave such a hard time. It was
yeah.
because she got interrupted. So now she can't watch anything. Same thing.
Yeah, blaming
Same
the
freaking thing.
external situation, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that external situation is, another person, someone's behavior, a cold coffee, like we constantly blame and blame and blame and blame and be like, oh, I'm feeling this because of that. No, you're actually feeling whatever you're feeling because of the way you're choosing to respond
To
to it.
look at it, yes. And
Yeah.
that's
And sometimes
exactly
you're stuck in it, right? Like
oh
I
my
was
God.
like
Like you said, the cement, like of frustration,
yes,
I felt that all day Friday.
yeah,
All day Friday, I could not release it. I could not release it. And so I surrendered to it. I was like, okay, it doesn't want to go. It doesn't want to go. So I'm going to remove myself. I'm gonna like remove myself and do things to take care of me, right? And so and I'm going to try and choose love in every moment, because what ended up happening is my daughter stayed home and my husband wasn't happy about it, and I was triggered by his reaction to it. And so there was this three-way dynamic, and this happens a lot to all of us, right, in family. And so when that's happening, you have to notice, well, you don't have to, but an option is to notice, is just to become aware of how you're trying to blame. Yeah, I'm trying to blame my husband, I'm trying to blame my daughter. And I just got honest with my daughter and I said, I'm still unhappy about what happened this morning, about how I chose to respond to it. Because I thought I was responding pretty good, but at the same time, internally, I was not. So I recognize that that frustration was heavy. You described it so perfectly. It was like stuck cement, and I could not shake this frustration. It kept just
Yeah.
returning to it. It took all day. It literally took all day
Mm.
of me, and I did cleaning too. I cleaned a lot. And I
Yeah.
and as I clean, like, this is where we have opportunities too, like, as we do it, we've had these conversations. As I'm cleaning, I'm trying to consciously choose love as I'm cleaning for myself, rather than frustration at the people I'm frustrated with.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for myself to help soothe my own emotions. Like,
Mm.
I'm doing this cleaning not because I'm mad, I'm doing this cleaning for me because I
Yeah.
can't let go of this frustration. So I'm doing something physical to help myself right now.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
have a choice
Because
to choose
you're,
a different energy.
yeah. Yeah. And also your, what I was feeling when I was tidying up, and that's funny that this happened on Friday for both of us.
Yeah.
As I was tidying up, I really just, that's when I really let go and just accepted the moment, as in
Yes.
like, this body's feeling very frustrated right now. Like this frustration feeling is like sticky and heavy, and okay, this is how it is.
Yes.
You
And it
know,
wants to control.
this is what my body's feeling right now
Yes.
as I'm cleaning up, as you know, because really, if I would have looked at it from a really high perspective, all I would see is just like three humans in a house, or no,
Yeah.
two humans in a house, and a couple of cats. That's literally all it was, right?
Yeah.
Just physical beings inside like a physical
Each
building. If
one
you really
having
go
their own
into
experience.
everything,
Each one
yeah,
having their own experience. That's
yeah.
it.
But because I was so like into ego and like just again in a big wave of frustration,
Yeah.
that was not necessarily my point of view, but I was aware, and this is where I suppose this is where like behaviors and responses differ based on, you know, whether you're living a 3D experience or a 4D or a 5D.
Yes.
Um, the awareness of it, be like, okay, I'm just feeling frustrated and I'm crying and it's not tripping down. This is very like a messy human moment, but this
Yeah.
is the moment right now.
This is what I'm having. Yeah,
And
this
there's
is the
no right
experience
or
I'm
wrong.
having.
And that's something
Yes.
that I kept telling myself. There's no right or wrong. It's
Yes.
just I chose to respond to that in that moment. Now
Yes.
this is a different moment. This is how I'm choosing to respond. There's no right or wrong, right? There's no
I kept
fail.
saying
You don't
that
fail
too.
this life, guys. It's
I
just
kept saying that too. It's not right
yeah,
or wrong. Like, especially when I was
yeah,
looking at my child's behavior, her
yeah,
behavior is not right or wrong.
yeah. And it really does help a lot. Sometimes in retrospect, right? You look back and you're like, oh, that did help. So because there was less judgment, you're not adding like the cement block of judgment
Yeah.
onto the sadness and the frustration and whatever else you're feeling, right? You're not
Yeah.
adding on to the crap, you're just accepting the crap that you're in right then. And then it just dissipates just a little bit more, right?
And it's not easy. I will say it's not easy because what was hard too is when you want to blame someone in your family, and children, especially famously, just move on. They move on and then they start having fun again. And you're still mad about what happened. And they're just suddenly
Yeah.
like, it's all fine. And this is something that I see my husband struggle with, but I struggle with too, right? But, it's really hard, so she stayed home, and it's like you want them to still there's, like, this part of you that wants them to stay miserable because you're mad, and they shouldn't be allowed to stay home and have fun then, if you made this decision not to go to school, right? That's what it was in
Yeah.
our case, right? And I so that's why I think it was so heavy all day because I had to carry it and watch her just have fun. She was just having fun and playing, and it's like, oh, there's this part of me that just
Yeah,
wants to,
she didn't
like,
bring all the
control and
old
be mad.
labels, all
Yes.
the old feelings into
So
this
I had
present
to
moment
feel all those feelings all day long, and I had
because
to
that's
keep
what you
not
chose, whether it
projecting
was
it.
conscious or
Yes.
unconscious.
And I
Yeah.
had to be conscious to not project it onto her. So I
Yeah.
gave myself a timeout. Julie talks about this. I gave myself a timeout because and she would come sometimes to me and I would say, and she would try to get me to engage and play. And I would tell her, mommy's still having a hard time from this morning. And I said, I love you. I'm not able to play with you right now. I need some time still for me. And then she'd go off and do her thing and play. And then I would just continue doing cleaning, doing whatever I needed to do.
Mm,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
conscious living. That's ascension. Like
yeah,
ascension is moving into greater awareness of yourself and how you are experiencing your experience. What are you doing with this experience, right? And how can you change the experience? Because we are here to learn our power. We're here to learn what that soul can do in a human body, what that little fraction of soul can do in a human body. We're here to
yeah,
learn that, and we're here to realize that that little fraction of soul that's within us, it's really powerful. That's what it means to be spiritual. It means to recognize that you have this beautiful conscious power to direct the experience, to master energy, to master your
yeah,
energy in the experience, right?
yeah, yeah. And I think there's a big misunderstanding of awakening, or what was ascension. I think there's a big misconception of ascension because again, we've been programmed of, heaven on earth or the second coming or whatever,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
of once you reach that ascension, everything's going to be perfect. Well, if you're in a human body, we live in a dualistic world. Like there's literally night and day. We have cold seasons, we have hot seasons. Like this is, you know,
Yeah.
the yin and the yang, right? And it's
Yeah.
not about, because this is maybe how, why, like, the hard part, maybe this is where that misconception of like it's hard to ascend, or it's hard, I have to effort my way to 5D, because we're all still kind of living in this, I'm going to get beamed up, right, once I hit 5D,
Yes.
or it's going to be perfect, I'm going to go
5D
to like a
still has duality.
and
5D still
and
has
it,
duality.
yeah, because you can choose 5D and still choose this earth plane, right?
Yes.
Because this is the best school, this is the most
Yes.
complex school that you're going to get so many great lessons.
You just master
But
your energy of
there's no
duality.
yeah, there's no perfectness. It's how are you experiencing this physical world? And sometimes it's cold. Sometimes
Yeah.
there's like -30 wind chill. Sometimes it's
Yes.
really nice and it's really warm. It's more pleasant. You're picking strawberries or whatever. And same thing with the emotions, right? Sometimes it's just like a frustrating Friday. It
Yeah.
feels like a frustrating Friday. And other times, you're just you feel like the flow, and you can see yourself in everyone, and you're like, oh yeah, like, I am God, and so is my son, and I can feel this. But it's not supposed to be like that all the time, because otherwise you would have just picked a different experience, or maybe you wouldn't even dropped in, right?
Yeah.
But so we have to remove this whole concept of um
Nirvana, reaching perfection,
of
because
nirvana.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
we're projecting this idea, this programming of perfection into 5D.
yeah,
5D still
yeah,
has duality. That was a big learning for me. When I learned that, it helped me to let go of any ideas because the ego attaches to ideas. And so when we
yeah,
learn a new concept, we attach all these things to it, and
yeah,
those attachments don't serve us. They don't serve us. And so moving into 5D is a higher way of being within the duality. That's how
yeah. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
it.
Like
You're ascending into a
the
higher
idea
way
of
of being.
nirvana is just how are you processing, how are you choosing to experience, to respond to whatever
Yes.
moment you're experiencing.
And one feels heavier and one feels lighter. That's it. Because
Yeah,
there's duality.
yeah, that's it. You're not those heavy feeling emotions. You're
Yes.
just the being that's getting like pummeled with the
Yeah.
hurricane or gales, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
It felt that way Friday, that's for sure.
yeah,
Oh, what a great conversation. This is so great.
yeah,
I love busting that myth too of what ascension is and 5D. Like so many people get hung up in doing the right steps to be in 5D. And it's like 5D is just a higher way of being in the duality. It's a higher way of consciousness in the
yeah,
duality. The duality is still there. It's still there in 5D, but you're no longer shaken by it,
yeah,
you know? in your Earth
Yeah.
experience. It's after you leave 5D, that's where duality no longer exists. Still exists here in 5D. That's why the Earth is moving from 3D to 5D. The Earth still has a
Mhm.
duality experience. I love that you said that. That's,
Yeah.
so we can
Yeah.
come
There's still
back
a
to
sun
this
and a
Earth.
moon, right?
Yeah, we can
If you're
still
not
come back
sure,
to
look up
this
at the
Earth.
sky.
Like
You
when
know?
you ascend, and that's ascension. Like ascension is a soul's path. It's not this one life human path. It is the soul's path. And so the soul can choose to come back to Earth and has mastered 3D already, so they can come back to Earth in the 5D experience. Very different
Yeah.
experience, right? Yeah, there's more consciousnesses. This is another thing that was taught to me and just going to throw out there, but there's in the 3D, Lori Ladd talks about this, and it's like in the 3D experience, there are more experiences in the 3D. The higher you ascend, the less consciousness experiences there are available. So, for example, war is an experience you can have in 3D. You won't have the experience of war when you're at a 5D vibration.
Yeah.
That's not an
Because everything
option.
is vibrating differently.
Yes, there's not an option of war. So there's less options, in the 5D,
Mhm.
fifth dimension as there are in the third dimension. That's why so many people choose to come to the third dimension. There's a huge range of experiences you can have
Yeah.
in the 3D
Smorgasbord,
to,
right?
yeah, a smorgasbord to for your soul's growth, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I love it. I love it. And I think the invitation is just to, can you hold that awareness and see it in your life? Like, how can you choose differently in an, recognize an old pattern, recognize something playing out in your day, go small,
Mhm.
recognize something playing out in your day, and can you hold awareness of how you're responding to it, how that pattern of response is, and can you choose something different? That's being conscious. Well, for one, can you accept that you're in that experience
Yeah.
and just choose to respond differently, even if it's just walking away? Like a response doesn't require you to say something.
Yeah. And it doesn't even require you to walk away. Maybe your response is just to go
Just
in and
stay
ask
there.
your guide, be like, all right,
What
I
should
need
I
a hug.
do?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I need a hug. What should I
What's the
do?
next thing I can do right now? And maybe
Yeah.
that's just sitting and not thinking about it, right?
Yeah. And
It
who
just be as
cares what's
simple as
going on
that.
around you? Who cares that your child's still going at you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you just change the response in that moment?
Yeah.
I mean, and we're all moving on it. We're already moving on ascension. We are. Everybody is. Every human is. Everybody that
Mhm.
comes to this earth is working on an ascension path. Actually, I would say, I would even argue anywhere in the galaxy, because the soul can choose to go wherever it wants to go.
Yeah.
And it's for its growth.
Yeah.
It's always for its growth because we're always ascending.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think there's so
This
much
is a fun
mindset.
conversation.
This was a really great conversation. Thank you for having it with me. I just really wanted to sort of unpack this and talk about it. And yeah. So thank you. Thank you everyone for tuning in from wherever you are. Natalie, did you have an invitation you wanted to share with anybody? Any small technique to help them in moving towards ascension?
I don't know. I don't think I need to add anything else. That was a
All
good
right.
how you stuff. Yeah.
All right, awesome. So if you like the video, please do like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell every Tuesday, Eastern time, 8 p.m. Yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We premiere our videos, and we hope you'll return and please share with us your own experiences. This is how we learn, right? Because we're all having unique experiences. So share your own experiences of this and your curiosities and your questions and anything that comes to heart about this topic. All right. I love you guys. Love you, Natalie. Thank you.
Love you guys. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Have a great day, night, evening, wherever you are.